Hello, hi, and welcome to Jane Diamond from the Family Tree Funeral Company in Stroud in Gloucestershire. Hi Jane,
Hello,
hello.
Marla. Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
Well, thank you. Very well.
Great, lovely. Well, thank you for thank you for agreeing to talk to me. It's been a very popular choice with all the questions that people are asking. Um, where should we start? So, firstly, what inspired you to become a funeral director, Jane?
What inspired me? Well, I think really my massive interest in death, dying, and all things end of life, really, which I've been developing for a number of years now. I have a background in psychotherapy, and I'm really interested in people and relationships. I'd like to say we think we're talking about death and dying, but really what we're talking about is what I would call attachment and separation. So it's all about people and relationships. I have intimate contact with family members. You know, I meet them, and within half an hour I'm right in there in their lives, you know, and I love that intimacy. Very privileged position, that side of it. What else? Well, so there's my massive interest generally, and then there's also the other things I do. So for example, I run a death cafe locally, which has been going for 4 years now. I have also trained as an end-of-life plan facilitator, so in the same line of work as you with that, really important. And I've also started training as an end-of-life doula. So fingers in lots of pies, the sort of beginning part with end-of-life planning, the during part with the end-of-life doula work, you know, being with people at the end of life, and then afterwards the funeral. So all connected for me.
Yes. Yeah, so you've got the whole journey all the way through. That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. And how long have you been a funeral director?
Coming up for 2 years now.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. So what is it you actually do as a funeral director?
That's a really good question. What do we do? Well, we the first thing is, in terms of with the body itself, we will collect the person from wherever they have died. That might be at home, hospital, hospice, care home. Those are the 4 places that people usually die. And we'll collect them, we'll bring them into our care, and we will look after the body. So there's that whole, what you could call backroom side of it, looking after the body. Especially if the family want to come and see the body, then we obviously make sure that the person's looking their best for that. So there's that side, the body care, the backroom care. And then there's a lot of liaising with the family. In this sense, it can be a bit like event planning. So you're planning a funeral alongside the family, taking into account all their wishes. There's lots and lots of back and forth with the arrangements, really drilling down into very detailed stuff on how they want it to be. So liaising with the family, and then liaising with all those third-party people that we have contact with. Obviously the crematoriums, the church ministers, celebrants, florists, orders of service, people that design and print those, the newspaper if they want a death announcement, bearers if we need to get in external people to carry the coffin, transport depending on what they want. We use our Audi A6 estate car for a lot of our funerals. A lot of families are very happy with that. It looks really smart. It's been transformed in the back to take a coffin, so it looks great. A lot of people want that, but lots of people might just still want a normal black hearse, so we will hire that in if we need to. So lots and lots of event planning, looking after the family, and then on the day being there and making sure that everything goes really smoothly and watching their backs. That's kind of it really. And then obviously afterwards, just, you know, a bit of aftercare as well.
Wow, that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
an interesting combination of skills needed. Yeah.
I mean, you've really got to like people, haven't you? Because you, like you say, you're dealing with the families. You know, when people are at their most vulnerable kind of state, and
completely. Yes. Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I'm not phased with that. People do say, how can you do this job? But I'm not phased by it. I like it. I enjoy looking after them.
Oh, that's lovely. Actually, that was one of the questions we got asked.
Mm.
Like how from Nickie asked, how do you manage your own emotional well-being whilst
Yes.
spending so many time around heartbroken
Yes.
people?
Yes. That's a really good question. And I do get asked that question. I do get asked that question a lot. I do kind of the normal things, really. I'm lucky I have a nice husband and children and a dog. I take my dog out for walks. That's really good. So having a good home life is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And then external help from, people like a reflexologist or a massage therapist. And also I'm hoping to start some supervision actually in the autumn. I thought that would be good. Sometimes we get these, what I call bottlenecks, where we either have a lot of funerals going on or some very sensitive funerals going on, and that it does affect me, it can't not. So I thought it would be a good idea to have a sort of supervisor come mentor person as well that I can go and talk to and just really and truly offload.
Absolutely.
So yes, yeah. So just being very mindful, just watching myself and just being aware of what's happening at work, that okay, it's building up a little bit, it's building up, and just keeping an eye on things, really.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? Because like you have to be able to support other people, so
exactly,
yeah, you need to get that support and kind of nurturing for yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
So
yeah, completely. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
I've got so many questions. So like you were saying about, I mean, like all the different aspects that you were naming, it's like when people come to you, do they have like a clear idea of all the different choices that need to be made, or and do they have the ready, do they come with all the decisions already made, or are you guiding
really good? Yeah. Yes and no. Some people come knowing exactly what they want, either because the person who's died has very helpfully left instructions on what they want, and then it's really straightforward, or the family just know really clearly what the person wanted. So sometimes they absolutely know, and sometimes we are starting really and truly with a blank canvas. They don't even know if it's burial or cremation, which is one of the first questions that you would be finding out. So sometimes they haven't even made a decision about that. So it really, really varies as to what people come along with. Usually they have some idea.
Yeah.
Oh.
And people, sorry.
I was just going to say, but part of what we also do in that arrangement meeting, as it's called, is to really ask about the person that's died. So we have a real feel for them. Tell me about your mum, tell me about your grandfather, what sort of person were they? Tell me about their life and times. We really want to know that sort of thing as well.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And do people have like an idea of like how much a funeral costs, or do they come with a figure in mind, or they kind of let you lead them through it, or how does that
work? So really varies again. We try to offer a bespoke service. I know that word has connotations meaning expensive, but it actually doesn't mean that. It means tailored. So we don't sell packages, which some of the bigger chain funeral directors offer more of a package service, which suits some people. We offer more of a bespoke service. We don't do any upselling. We won't sell you anything you don't want. If you want it really, really simple, then that's exactly what we'll do. We are as hands-off or as hands-on as the family want. So it's really hard to say how much does a funeral cost, because it can be just absolutely anything.
Right.
So yeah, and then but after the arrangement meeting, I'll write it all up so we're all really clear on what we've talked about and what we've decided, and part of that will include me sending an estimate. So at that point, right from the beginning, they have an idea of what the cost is going to be. So it's really, really clear.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're in a partnership with people.
Yeah. Yes.
Like people come to you, and I know like funeral directors, people just kind of hand it over to the funeral director, and you end up paying way over the odds. But it sounds like
that isn't what happens in my experience for us. It's I mean, it's that phrase, one size fits all, doesn't really work for any area of life, and it certainly doesn't work for funerals.
No.
That this funeral works for them and for them and for them. It's just not. It's really different each time. Yeah, and that's how it should be, because we're all so different as individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. It's just so important, isn't it? Because, like I say, it's the most people at their most raw and vulnerable time, and yeah, and I think people don't realise they've actually got choices.
Yeah, that's right. They do have choices, and that's for the Death Cafe as well. That's what Death Cafes are so great for, because it brings people together, and you can start to sort of talk amongst yourselves. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, did you really do that for your mum's funeral? Oh, great. You know, you can just talk about it and learn that there aren't any rules. Somebody said to us the other day, it was a crematorium service. It was secular. It wasn't religious. But she said, and do we have to have the Lord's Prayer? No, you absolutely don't. If you don't want to, no, you don't. But there's still this sort of, people don't know that there aren't any rules. There really are no rules.
Yeah.
With funerals.
Amazing. Wow. Okay, I've got quite a few questions here, like I said. Okay, let's go for it.
Go for it.
And what happens if the family don't have the money for a funeral? Do you have you had that experience?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if it's really extreme, I mean, then if your family, if there really isn't anybody, then there's something called, you might have heard of a pauper's funeral, that phrase. It's now called a public health funeral. Right. So if there really isn't any next of kin, or the family refuse to pay, then the council will take over and organise one of these public health funerals. That's a really extreme scenario, but that is what would happen. Other than that, there's something called a funeral expenses payment, which people can apply to have, and that will cover a good chunk of expenses.
Wow.
And then if we have families who are struggling, then we will make an arrangement with them to pay in instalments over a time frame that suits them.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? Because that's the last thing you really want to be worrying about, like money and
yes.
And I hear so many people like they get in debt over funerals and
yes, that's right. Funeral poverty. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a really good charity called you've just reminded me, called Down to Earth, who are run by the Quakers, who always do great stuff. And they help people in that respect.
Oh, marvellous. Yeah, because I've met loads of people, and it's like they end up in, like, for a community, and because they don't talk about it, when it comes to it, they end up going to one particular funeral director that's local to me, and she said they pay like £15,000 for a funeral, and it's like, it's like these people are on low incomes. She said, and they just end up in debt, so they're like, they end up just
That's that's a staggering amount. I've never encountered a funeral anything approaching that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. I think the most expensive one we've ever had in my time, I think, was about £6,000, but that was a lot of bells and whistles on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because this particular funeral director, I actually got their brochure. I saw the first bit, and it says we do these kind of low cost funerals for like £2,500. I was like, wow, that's great. And then I did a bit bedtime reading in the brochure, and it's like the cost, like all the other add-ons, the most expensive casket. Guess how much it was?
I dread to think.
It was £36,000.
Okay.
It's like,
Yeah. That's really, really extreme, isn't it? Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes,
But I guess somebody must buy them.
Yeah. Gosh. God, incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So, whew,
Yeah.
People to know they don't have to spend that amount of money.
No, don't have to do that. And talk to your family and perhaps start now to put some money aside. I've started putting money aside each month for my funeral. I hope I've got time to accrue a good amount, but yeah, there's no reason for any of us to not, if we can, just put a little bit away.
Yeah.
So that there's a good chunk there when the time comes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's that thing, isn't it, about you know, like the money that people may overspend at a funeral could be spent while they're alive, or it could be spent on a really nice kind of celebration afterwards, or
It's
yeah.
strange. Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, my next question here was about embalming.
Oh, okay.
What is it, and why is it done?
What is it? Why is it done? Well, first of all, I'd say about embalming, it's not compulsory. People, I don't know if people think it is, but it isn't. I'm not sure to what extent it's done routinely by other funeral directors in this country. I know in America it's done routinely. I think it still is by more traditional funeral directors would still do it in this country routinely, but we don't do it routinely at all. We do it for very extreme reasons, namely repatriation. If the body needs to go to another country, it needs to be embalmed. It has to be embalmed legally, I believe. Similarly, if the body was coming into us, it would be embalmed if it was coming in from abroad. So that's one of the reasons you have to do it. The sort of three reasons they talk about doing it is because it's for preservation, presentation, and sanitation or sanitization. So preservation, it makes you look less dead.
Right.
It makes you look more lifelike. It plumps you up, it puts colour in your cheeks and hands, and it makes you look less dead, basically. So it has that's the presentation side of it, is how it makes you look.
Yeah.
Preservation, it keeps the body preserved for longer. So that's another reason we might do it. And in fact, we did have a funeral, I think it was last Christmas. The person had died and it was going to be a number of weeks the other side of Christmas before the funeral. So we did have him embalmed because it was a long time and the family were wanting to come to see him. So that was that. And then there's a sort of fear around bodies not being safe for public health, which isn't really generally true. So there's not really a need to do it. Funeral directors sometimes refer to it euphemistically as hygienic treatment. Okay. Rather than using the E word, as if it sort of makes it sound like a good thing and a necessary thing. So it's not really essential. And those are the only times that we've done it. And those are the reasons why it's done: preservation, presentation, and sanitization. What is it? In a nutshell, it's basically removal by suction of all your bodily fluids to be replaced by a formaldehyde-based embalming fluid. I've seen it being done. It's quite an art form, and it does look amazing to see the body change, as I say, from sort of grey, maybe grey and a bit sunken, to being this sort of pumped up. It's quite incredible, really. It really is an art form. I'd rather see the person in their natural deceased state myself. And it is invasive. There's no question about it. It is invasive, which is another reason that, is it necessary? Not really, no.
Okay. And how about the environmental factor?
Yes, that's right. There's sort of two camps on this, really, as to whether it isn't. I know most natural burial grounds won't allow embalmed bodies to be buried there. So that makes, that suggests that it is not good for the environment.
Okay. Yeah, because just thinking, like, when like you hear about the crematoriums and like people's like the mercury. Oh, the mercury from the fillings.
Filling, yes.
So,
which I believe goes up the chimney, I think, is what happens with that vaporizers. Right. But they did really clean up on the crematoria a few years ago, I think maybe 7 or so years ago, and they put in much more stringent rules around emissions, but it's still not great. It's still not really environmentally friendly at all, because you're burning masses of fossil fuels with the burners, and then obviously all the carbon dioxide that's released. It's not an environmental choice, cremation.
Wow. What would you say was the most environmentally friendly?
Well, burial, but burial in a natural burial ground. So you're forced then to not be embalmed. You're forced, when I say forced, you know what I mean. You're encouraged not to use to have a coffin that's biodegradable or a shroud. There's no grave goods or grave on the top of the grave. There's not lots of plastic tap and plastic bits and bobs. There's there's nothing really. Perhaps a very, very small marker, maybe not even that, maybe a tree. The grass isn't mown in the way that a council graveyard might be mown to within an inch of its life. It's left to nature. So for lots of reasons, a natural burial in a natural burial ground is the best we can do at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting actually. On lockdown, I've been walking through my local cemetery. It's gorgeous, and but they're running out of space. They're running out of space, and the paths that you used to be able to walk around, they're now graves. So yeah, it's like
yes, we are.
When they run out of space.
Yeah, totally running out of space. It'll be cremation only. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
Although this sounds like a good point to tell you about something I wanted to tell you about, which is something called Recompose. Have you heard of Recompose?
Is it the same with the Resonation one?
The Reservation, no, it's not. Recompose is based in Seattle in America, and it's a new thing. It's going live in November.
Yeah.
And you basically are in a sheet, a cloth, and you are put around is wood chips and alfalfa and straw, and you go into a pod, a capsule, and there are microbes in there too. I don't know the detail on that. I don't understand about how it works, but it takes about 30 days and the body transforms into compost.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah,
and then that compost can be used in the normal way you would use compost for fertilizer or mulch, or it just great. Amazing. Really good. So that's starting in November, and that's really exciting to see how that is going to progress, to turn a body, to basically compost the body in 30 days. Amazing. And that the cost for that at the moment is about, for when it starts, it's going to be around about £5,500.
Okay.
So obviously that's a lot more than you would pay for cremation or burial, but as with all these new things, the price will hopefully come down as it establishes.
Yeah.
But it can be done. There are other things that we can do.
Well, this is it, isn't it? People are finding new solutions now. So yeah, and then you wouldn't have the cost of like a headstone or anything like that.
That's right. There's headstones all imported from goodness knows where. The marble and the granite. And
how much is a headstone?
How much are they? Really expensive, about at least £1,000.
Okay. Oh
yeah.
I remember when my cat died, and I actually made her a gravestone. I got a hammer and chisel and
oh, well done. Much better.
Yeah. So, oh, okay. Wow, going back to the question. Oh, I've got a question from Jane. How long does the body take to burn?
Okay, yes, cremation questions are always good. Lots of myths surrounding cremation. And I must just say, as well, as part of my death cafe, I once took some of our regulars, we went to our local crematorium and had a tour, which included going round the back and seeing the cremators in action. So if you're really interested in this stuff and you're curious and you do want to know what goes on, ask your local crematorium and they will let you come and watch a cremation happening. There's a little sort of rectangular window that you can look through and into the cremator, and you can see it happening. That's pretty amazing. So how long does it take a body to burn? It depends on the bone mass of the individual and how stable the body is. Minimum about an hour and a half, up to 3 hours, with a very hot cremator, 1,000 degrees plus.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just to finish that process, after the body has burned, you're still left with quite big bones and bits. So it's taken out, put into something called a cremulator, which is like a sort of tumble dryer in a way, that breaks any big bone parts down into what we call ashes, which aren't actually ashes, they're quite gritty, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's sort of the process that goes on.
I was squirming in my seat as you were saying that bit.
Which bit?
But, taking the bones and kind of...
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It doesn't go to the full ashes in the cremator. It has to go through another process first to grind any bits down. Sorry.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Because how would you know this?
Yeah.
Know. Wow.
Yeah. And it is your person's ashes. That's another question and another myth that somehow people are all in together. It's absolutely very much one at a time and very, very, very carefully and respectfully done. It is your person's ashes.
Does that apply for direct cremations as well?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yes. What happens around the back at any cremation is the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. So what we've got next question on cremations. It says, for Marion, what time of day or night do they cremate bodies? I've never seen any smoke from a crematorium. I guess it has to be very hot.
Yes, it does have to be very hot. I think they do it during the day. I think legally it has to be done within 72 hours of the funeral taking place, but most crematoria aim to do it within 24 hours, so pretty much the same day. And just during the day, the cremators are going all day. I don't think they do it at night or at the weekend.
Right.
So just during the day. Maybe it's since they have improved how they do it, maybe the smoke is less. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's funny. I just had this image, like when the coffin goes down, that they were that they go straight into the fire. That was my kind of perception.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
They don't go down anymore either. They are behind the curtain, or the curtains will be closed at some point, and then at the back there's a door, so the backroom crematorium staff will open the back door and take the coffin off the catafalque at the front where the service has been. They'll take it off from there and then take it to one of the cremators. Yes. Right.
Oh. That's it. I mean, how would we know, really? If we didn't ask you.
Yeah. And then obviously they've got the person's name. You have to have a nameplate on a coffin.
Yes.
Saying the person's name, and they'll match that up, with all their other paperwork, and they have information on the outside of the cremator itself, so they know that this is Bob Smith, and and in fact they turn the card that's by the cremator door around as a mark of respect, so that it won't outwardly facing, say, Bob Smith. They'll turn it around and just to give some privacy, some dignity. I don't know, but that's just something to do. Yeah.
Okay. And do people ever come to you with, like, they say, we've got a coffin already? Do you get that?
No, actually, we don't. No, we don't. You'd think that you would, and I think we might start to see that more and more. In fact, I did look on eBay. It was a few months ago now, and I did have a look for coffins, and there weren't really any on there, which is interesting because you'd think that there would be. So obviously coffins have to meet a certain standard. I can't remember what the acronym is for the standards of coffins that they have to match to be able to go to the crematorium. They'll only accept ones that are a certain manufacturing standard.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, I haven't really had anybody come with their own coffin, but I expect that will happen in future.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah. Funny, I said yes because when my lovely friend died, we made her a coffin. So went to the children's scrap store in Bristol, and they got the MDF wood, and it was just gorgeous. And I talked to the crematorium, because we did a DIY. I talked to the crematorium, and then the day before her funeral, at 4:00 in the afternoon, I got the phone call from the crematorium going, "No, we can't accept it. It's too big. Hasn't got." I mean, it was huge. It was huge. And apparently coffins over 6 foot, they go to a different crematorium.
Okay.
And there was something about runners or something.
Yes, that's right.
So I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So I phoned up my friends. I said, "Can we fix this? Can we fix this in time?" And we did. But I also phoned a funeral director to say, "Can I buy a cardboard coffin just in case?" So that was a good backup plan.
Yes.
But they did say, I mean, it was a learning on both sides.
Oh yeah.
And they said that we were the first ones to actually turn up with a ready-made coffin. So there is a difference between the coffin and the casket, the size and the measurements.
Yes.
If anyone's gonna thinking of doing that, check it out.
Yes. Our local crematory have it on their website. They've got the spec for the coffin, which is really useful. So if you do want to do your own, check out the spec, but speak to them. Don't turn up on the day and freak them out.
No, exactly. So, and they're all a tight time scale, aren't they? So it really is kind of precision. So back to the coffin question. I've got Andrea said, are the most expensive coffins being used again, saved from cremation after the event? Have you ever heard of this, Jane?
No, I have not heard of a coffin being reused, which is another good reason to not have an expensive coffin. Although the wicker ones are really beautiful. They're expensive, but they are very, very beautiful. But certainly not one that's the price that you were just suggesting, that you saw in your local funeral directors. So no, you can't cremate a body without a coffin around it. You just wouldn't. Who's going to manhandle the possibly unstable by that point body into the cremator? It has to be in the coffin. Similarly, how are you going to put a body into the ground if it's burial without something to contain it? A coffin is a container after all. A shroud is an option. If you don't like coffins, you can use a shroud. They're perfectly acceptable for cremation and burial.
Right. Oh, okay. So you can. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. What else we got here? Another one about reusing from Jane. She said, do people reuse coffins, and why not?
Yeah. I mean, I just can't think how you could get around that really, unless you'd at some point you'd have to don't know how you can get around that really.
I'm pretty sure I did actually read about a company in, I think it might have been America, who actually got caught reselling the coffins.
Now that's different. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Don't know how you do that again, because you've got to send it off for burial or cremation.
I guess maybe they put it in a cheap one and resell the expensive one.
But then the family would be at the funeral.
That's a good point, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
The rest with that one, I don't know. Okay, so I've got a question from Susa, and she said, what about the types of new coffins which are made as a suit with mushrooms?
Yes, the mushroom coffin, the mushroom suit rather. Yes, that is a thing. Don't know that they're over here, but they're certainly in America. The actor Luke Perry died a year or two ago, and he was buried in a mushroom suit.
Did he?
Yes. So it's a suit.
Died.
Yes, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Very young. So I think that cost about $1,500. So it's a lot of money. And it's a sort of loose cloth suit that's got spores sewn into it.
Right.
So you can obviously it's no good for cremation. it's a burial thing. So you can be buried in that, and then the microbes again, or the spores, mushrooms, will do their work and quickly decompose the body.
Okay.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all these things that are just there, existing in nature already.
Yes, that's true, isn't it? Yeah, just go back into earth, go back into the soil. Wow. I did actually read about I think it was Norway. They had, I mean, they stopped it now, but they had a trend of actually wrapping the bodies in like a plastic cling film kind of thing, and then finding out that the bodies just weren't decomposing. So
yes, because there's no aerobic digestion, there's no oxygen, which is another thing with natural burial grounds. I'm not quite sure on this, but that if you bury a body slightly shallower than 6 foot, more like 3 foot, you'll have aerobic digestion, so it will speed up the decomposition much more quickly. So if you're wrapped tightly in a cling film type substance, then nothing's going to happen, is it?
No.
The little microbes and germs and lovely bacteria things can't do their work.
No. Yeah. It's amazing when you start looking at how the different countries like do their funerals. So what about burial ships? Do people ask for these new types of burial ships?
No, I think that's a bit of an urban myth. Obviously the Viking burial is a thing. I'm not sure on the detail of that, but you can't do that in this country. Unfortunately, you can't have an open, would effectively be an open funeral pyre. You can't do that in this country, unfortunately, because that's something I'm quite interested in. So no, there are. You can do something for ashes if you're into this Viking pushing it out.
Yes.
Then you can do that with ashes. I think there's a website called, I think it's called Scattering Ashes, that offer one of those scenarios that's like a Viking chip. Yeah, but not for live burial.
No, that reminds me of that film. Did you see that film, What We Did on Our Holiday?
I did see that film. It's very, very good.
Granddad, off he went, got his Viking funeral. So I think I've run out of questions, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, we had talked before about dying at home.
Oh yes, that's right.
Keeping the body at home, and this is possible, and how does that work? So again, that's something that people ask about and wonder about. So yes, of course you can die at home if that's your preference. I've asked to die at home if that's possible. Again, it's just my preference. I've asked to die at home and for my body to stay at home for a while. So again, it's really something to talk about your family with before it happens. Talk about it now when you're well, and if you don't manage that, then talk about it if you have a diagnosis or you know you're going to die, if that's what you'd like to happen. There's lots of support for people dying at home. Obviously there's like the Macmillan nurses and of course the end-of-life doulas are great here because they will walk alongside a family, be with them, support the family and the person towards their end of life. And practicalities with keeping a body at home, very, very common sense stuff. The main thing, number one, top of the list, is keep the room and the body as cool as possible.
Okay.
So if you have a room with lots of external walls and you can move the body into there to keep it really cool, no radiators obviously. If it's summer and it's hot, you might want to put an air conditioning unit in the room. You can hire them easily for a day or two. We use freezer blocks, the little rectangular ones that you have on picnics. We use those, maybe 5 or 6, wrapped up in a tea towel separately and put strategically around the body, perhaps armpits, around the core, under the small of the back, in the groin. It just keeps the temperature down around the major organs. And keep the window closed, or if you have the window open for ventilation, keep the curtains closed. We don't want anything coming in through the window. Perhaps burn some oil, some nice smelling essential oil. And that's kind of it, really. Common sense stuff. And you can keep the body at home depending on how stable it is when the person died, for a day, 2 days, 3 days. See how it goes. You will have a sense, the family will have a sense, and we will have a sense, and we'll work it out together that it's time now, perhaps, for us to take the person into our care and look after them there instead. All doable, all doable.
Yeah. And that's so good for people to know this, isn't it? And that's how it used to be, didn't it? Most people died. My mum died at home.
Both my parents did, yes. Yeah. Yes. And that's which reminds me, when my mum died, I used the Natural Death Centre handbook, and that really helped me with these common sense sorts of things of what to do.
Oh, they're excellent,
how
aren't
to look
they?
after the body, yeah.
So yeah, great for people to know that, you know, you have many choices. So wow, thank you so much, Jane. It's been wonderful. It's just been really it's been really enlightening today, like learning all these new things and just hearing your experience. So
great.
Thank you. I mean,
welcome.
it's just such precious work that you do. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you. And where can people find out about you, about the Family Tree Funeral Company?
Okay, well, on our website, just Google Family Tree Funerals or Family Tree Funeral Company, Stroud, and up we will pop, and you can see our website. Or phone, call me, make contact. We have a Facebook page as well, which you can like, and I post things on there from time to time. But yes, if there's anything that anybody wants to know more about following from our interview, then please give me a ring.
Fantastic, thank you. Oh, wow, great. That about wraps it up for now. So thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Marla. Okay.
Oh, lovely. See you soon.
See you. Bye.
Bye.